In the land of Egypt, there are mysteries that can truly boggle your mind. From the famous pyramids of Giza to strange signs and symbols that seem to depict modern helicopters and yachts, it's a place filled with wonders. One of the oldest cities in Egypt is known as Abydos, situated at a distance of 550 kilometers away from Cairo. On one side, you have got the mighty Nile River flowing just 11 kilometers away, but on the other side, as far as we can see, it's all just sand. In 1988, something quite unusual happened. A powerful sandstorm swept through the area, and out of nowhere, something ancient and mysterious emerged from the sand. It turned out to be a massive wooden structure, but it seems that it had seen better days in the past. The termites have caused damage to it by creating too many holes in the wood. Fast forward to the year 2000, when an archaeology team decided to start digging in this sandy area full of treasures. They had to be super careful because this was not an ordinary discovery. What they found was not an average object, it was a whopping 70-foot-long boat. But why was it there? Well, that's where the mystery really begins. There was not just one boat, there were actually 14 boats buried together in the sand. Now, you might wonder why they didn't just pull these boats out of the sand right away. Well, it turns out they were afraid that if they tried to remove them, the boats might break into pieces, leaving a big secret undiscovered. To figure out just how old these boats were, the archaeologists had to examine some pieces of wood from them. And guess what? These boats turned out to be around 5,000 years old. Yeah, that's even older than the famous pyramids of Giza we all have heard about. So, there's definitely something special in these boats. Now, here comes the real head-scratcher. Why were these ancient boats buried in the sand? What was their purpose? Well, that's a mystery that made everyone curious. These boats were buried side by side, which makes us wonder if they were once near the banks of the Nile River. But experts quickly ruled out that possibility. If these boats had made it to the riverbank, they would have run into some serious problems there. So, why were they intentionally kept here, far from the river? Archaeologists didn't stop there. They thoroughly searched the surrounding landscape for clues, but there was no sign that the Nile River ever flowed through this area. So, who were these boats searching for? And why were they buried here in the sand? To uncover more secrets, the experts used 3D graphics to recreate a model of these boats, and when they did, they stumbled upon a crucial clue. The boats were covered with mud brick structures, which makes the archaeologists surprised. These were not some ordinary bricks. They were carefully shaped to match the curve of the boat. They were not just on the sides. They were also underneath the boat, and when they added bricks on the top using 3D graphics, it created a unique pattern. But here's the real kicker. These bricks were like coffins for the boats. Just like mummies, these boats were carefully placed in these coffins 5,000 years ago. To make them even more special, they applied a layer of white plaster. And when the sunlight falls on them, they shine like pearls in the sand. Interestingly, when the pyramids were built, they used white plaster on top of the pyramids in a similar way, which makes them shine in the sunlight. Archaeologists have found evidence suggesting that ancient Egyptians used white limestone plaster for decoration purposes. So, these boats were not just practical, they were also meant to be impressive. After years of digging and research, archaeologists made significant progress in unraveling the mystery of the ancient boats in Abydos. One thing became clear: that these boats didn't come to rest in the Nile River. Their unique design indicates that they belonged to the kings of ancient Egypt and were placed in mud brick coffins. So, the big question remains that why were these boats placed in coffins? Just 1.5 kilometers away from this discovery site lies the tomb of an Egyptian pharaoh, where these boats were placed after his death. And here's the astonishing part. This tomb was built in the same era when these 14 boats and the bodies were prepared. In this tomb, not only the pharaoh's mummy was placed, but also his closest companions were buried in the land, all on the same day when the pharaoh passed away. In the honor of Pharaoh, his closest companions made the decision to be buried alongside their king and leave this world with him. They believed that in the afterlife, all the pharaoh's wealth, belongings, and servants should accompany him to make his journey easier. The boats were also carefully placed in these coffins to facilitate the pharaoh's journey in the afterlife. This is a narrative that has been seen in the tombs of Egyptian pharaohs later on. Most of the tombs of Egyptian pharaohs have been looted, and perhaps some treasures are hidden in the sand. In 1922, in the Valley of the Kings, a few feet below the ground, King Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered. It somehow escaped the looters, and the treasures and items inside remained intact. With this treasure, they found 35 boat models, prepared just like the Abydos boats, perhaps to make the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife easier. To understand this in a more easy way, we have to go back in time, around 5,000 years ago. Picture ancient Egypt, a land of pharaohs, pyramids, and a belief in the afterlife. In those times, they had a fascinating tradition. When a pharaoh passed away, it was considered a major event. They believed that in the afterlife, the pharaoh should continue living in luxury, just like they did in this world. And to enjoy the afterlife, they needed all their stuff with them. So, the pharaoh's closest companions, advisors, and even servants would make a bold decision when a pharaoh dies. They would choose to be with their king even in death. They were ready to leave this world and accompany the pharaoh to the great beyond. It was believed that these boats were not regular boats. They were specially designed to carry the pharaoh's treasures, his valuable possessions, and even his servants to the afterlife. It was all about making the pharaoh's journey as comfortable and luxurious as possible. This tradition was not unique to the Abydos boats. In fact, it became a common practice among Egyptian pharaohs. Most of their tombs were filled with treasures and even boats, just like these ones, ready to sail them into the next world. Thank you for watching. If you have any thoughts or incidents you would like us to make a video on, do share with us by leaving a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe for more investigations and documentaries like this.